All right. Welcome, everybody. The Rotary Club of Lexington, August 22nd, 2024. I would like to have Chris Peck join us for our inspiration. As Chris Peck makes his way, I'd like to acknowledge him and his organization, Big Brothers Big Sisters, for earning the Nonprofit Community Action Award from Commerce Lexington. Congratulations, Mr. Peck. Yeah, we were surprised, but extremely honored. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. As we gather here today, let's take a moment and just reflect on the incredible impact each one of us make in our community and our collective effort here at Rotary. You know, Rotary is not just a club, it's really a force of good in our community. It transcends borders and cultures and all of our differences. Our commitment to service above self is not just a motto, but it's a call to action. And so every act of kindness, no matter how small we do in this community, truly makes a difference. So together we're capable of doing extraordinary things together, and I think our club does that. So as we move forward, let's do it with the belief that together we're making a difference and we're making this community a better place. My call to action today is we would like everyone to really consider bringing a guest to upcoming meeting. We need new membership. We need to grow so we can make an even greater impact. So I think we have some things coming up this fall that will, make it easier for you because we're going to have some community events and different things. So just consider inviting one person. Let's pray. You've blessed us all with unique talents, time, and resources. So as we think about our role in Rotary's mission for the betterment of this club, reveal to us how each one of us can make a difference. Give us the strength and compassion and those opportunities to serve others less fortunate than us. Most importantly, thank you for this food. Thank you for the means for it. And thank you for loving us. Amen. And Chris, you might want to, two more things, pledge and four-way test. Yeah. Seeing if I'm on my toes. Do I have to sing the national anthem too? All right, let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's do the four-way test. If it's true, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Chris. Introductions of guests, Mr. Mike Baker. Come on out.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody, listen up. We don't have any visiting Rotaracts, but we have a very special. Hello. Hello. There you go. We have a very special visiting assistant district governor who happened to be the mother of Cheyenne. Bobby Grill, where are you? There she is. A very nice lady. Okay, we have a bunch of guests today. Tim Campbell is a guest of Patrick Metzger. Where are you? There you are. Brian Martin is a guest of Trey McCalley. There you are. Joe Evans is a guest of Marcus Cross. There you are. Christy Pierce is a guest of Alicia Champion. There you are. Michelle Smock is a guest of Jenny Driscoll. Where are you? There you are. Dale Morgan is a guest of Laurel Martin. There you are. Matt Berry, you're here as a guest of the club. Thank you for coming. And Sam Overby is a guest of Joe Evans, and there you are. Welcome to Rotary.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, guests, for coming. Here for the lottery, Cheyenne. You ready for the lottery? Cheyenne McBride, come on down. All right. It is a lot of pressure. What's the total at today? 1697. 1697. And we're looking for the ace of clubs. I'm gonna pull two numbers and I've got them in my hands, and the last four digits are 5496. 5496. And we've got one. Come on down in case we don't win. It's 5470. 5470. Come on down, line up. 5470. Ace of clubs. And oh. Thank you for playing. All right. Looking for that ace of clubs.
I told you. We believe you. We're in the honor system here. Okay.
Oh, we got an ace. It's the wrong suit. Close, but no cigar. Thank you, Cheyenne. And thank you for playing the lottery. Celebrating birthdays. Don't forget the birthday club. Celebrating birthdays this week. Jack McAllister, I saw you're keeping busy. Chris Campbell. Greg Meehan. Matthew Valentine, I saw you earlier. Shelby Kincaid, happy birthday. Cheyenne McBride. Jerry Vandermeer. Chris Peck, big week. Larry Cowgill. And our very own Peggy Trafton. Happy birthday. Got some announcements. Scouting America, formerly the Boy Scouts committee, will be meeting immediately after today's meeting out by the dessert table. Thank you, Dan Miller and Ed. Also, Blue Million is a web development firm, and they're the ones we selected to redo our Rotary Club of Lexington's website. I had a sneak peek at the frame earlier this week, and it's amazing. We're really going to be jettisoned into the next level. Big thanks to Tim Campbell, the CEO. Will you stand up? And our very own Patrick Metzger, who are leading this charge. Blue Million agreed to cover half of the costs, and so thank you very much, Tim. And we're looking for a sponsor for the other half. That's going to be ready and up and ready to go here within a month, probably within a few weeks or so. Thanks again. We've got a big announcement. There's a lot of buzz going on with a big social event next week. And without further ado, I'd like the team to come on up. Let's come on up, Jake. Here we go.
Around team. Good Jack up here. Here. Grab my hand. Got it?
Yeah,
Got it. It's a beaster buzz. The beaster buzzing.
Jack,
Jack, you're up.
Hey, what's the buzz?
can you tell us what's happening?
Well, your club and this team up here in costume is inviting you to the 5th Thursday event, which will be held at our pollinator garden at Kennewood Park a week from today at 5:30 in the evening.
And who can attend?
Can we come?
All kinds of pollinators, and Rotarians and their families are most welcome. B2,
Will there be something to eat?
there sure will. Plenty of pollen for you guys and snacks for the humans.
Will there be something to drink?
Oh, yeah. Nectar for the pollinators and nice, cool libations for the adults and humans. Adults only.
Will it be daytime so we can find the flowers?
It will be from 5:30 to 7, so there'll be lots of lights left.
What else will be happening?
everyone can visit the garden, and we'll have information for the humans about why the pollinators are so important for 40% of our food supply and how it will add to what?
Attract.
Oh, attract. Oh, I didn't read that. Attract pollinators to our garden. Now, who's next?
That sounds good. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have door prizes too for the humans. What's that?
Doorless, no doors out there.
Doorless prizes, sorry. I didn't read that close enough. I've never heard that word before. Does that work? Anyway, including some honey from my apiary.
Honey.
How can we find the garden?
All right, look right there on every table and you will see a map. Kennewood Park, if you get lost, is off Bryan Station Road. And if you come in off of Bryan Station, follow the double yellow line, it'll take you right to the park. All right, go ahead.
Be there or be square.
Now. Go, Peggy. Yeah, protect my bees. All right. If you helped us plant plants, weed, haul 400 feet of garden hose around. What am I missing?
We planted 300 plants.
Yeah, 300 plants. Stand up. Jerry, I know you're here. Bill, you're over there. Stand up. Sharon, all these folks, plus what you Jeff back here, over 300 hours have gone into this garden. 300. So it's kind of the coach in front of the pep rally or the student body. We hope you'll come and celebrate with us all this effort that this team has put in for our club. We hope to see you 5:30 a week from today at the garden. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Let me help you. Okay.
And there are cookies at every table for everyone to share. Looks like flowers and bees.
That's right.
Who baked those?
Jeff Thompson's wife.
And Jeff, thanks to Jeff Thompson's wife for baking those cookies.
Absolutely.
Let's give it up to the pollinator garden team. Really good stuff. And one of my favorite parts of the announcements is introducing new guests. I'd like to have Jenny Schnurr come up to introduce our newest.
I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to Kim Hammond, who is our newest member of the Rotary Club. Kim and I actually met through the Rotary Club's Facebook page. So she has been actually a very long-term member of Rotary International. Kim is young and yet has been the first member of Rotary, our Rotary Club, who came up through Interact. I joined through Rotaract. Kim is the first through Interact. So I'm really excited about that. Kim was born in Kentucky and grew up between Kentucky and Florida. She was in Interact first in Seminole, Florida, and later started the first Interact club in, I'm gonna get it wrong, so tell me. In Nicholas County. So she has been president of Interact Club. So we have a young leader in our midst. She and I met for coffee, back in January, and have gotten a chance to become friends. Another accountant-minded young lady who is going to join our club. So Kim, so delighted to have you finally joining the member. Here is your red badge. And if everyone could give her a warm Rotary welcome.
Welcome to Rotary, Kim. Thank you so much for joining. All right, to introduce our speaker, Kathy Taylor, would you please make your way to the podium?
All right, good afternoon. I'm Kathy Taylor and I'm with Community Trust Bank, and I am pleased to introduce today's speaker, Shane Ensminger. Shane is the Senior Vice President and Director of Financial Intelligence and Security at Central Bank the other bank down the street. Anywho, how many of you all have experienced some sort of fraud, either a compromised credit card, debit card, check fraud? The list goes on. This has become such a constant in our industry. And as we fight financial fraud and the bad guys, it's great to know that Shane is one of the good guys. And a little bit about Shane, and I'm going to read because there's a lot of big words in his bio. But prior to joining Central Bank, Shane served 22 years with the Lexington Division of Police here in Lexington. In his tenure at LPD, he served numerous assignments to include detective and sergeant of the Narcotics Enforcement Unit, Intelligence and Organized Crime Unit, FBI Criminal Enterprise Task Force, FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, DEA Task Force, U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and served as Assistant Commander of the Emergency Response Unit, which I think is also known as SWAT. Shane has been in banking for 8 years and completed the Graduate School of Banking in Colorado and has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Shane also serves on the Bluegrass Crime Stoppers Board, along with myself and several other people in here, and is the past chair of that organization. Shane's dedication to protect and educate his fellow bankers, banks, and customers is appreciated, and his efforts have been instrumental in reducing losses. So please join me in welcoming Shane to the podium today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Will I be able to control that with this?
Yes.
All right, making sure. Like she said, I'm Shane. I'm with Central Bank, been there actually 9 years. And I'll talk to you a little bit about fraud. I'm gonna talk international, national, and then local. And we'll get right into it. That first slide, or the first line of that slide, the international study looking at banks 10 billion and above, which is your regional, national, international banks. Kathy, nor I, or any other banker in here, I don't think, unless you're with PNC, Fifth Third, or one of those, is a big $10 billion plus bank. Those banks, the ones that participated in that study, lost 485 billion last year. That's what the banks lost. The FBI tracks what consumers lose, but they only track if consumers report. And we know statistically less than 25% of everybody that loses white collar crime cases actually reports because of embarrassment or shame. They reported 12.5 billion last year. Like I said, that's probably 25% at best. FinCEN, if you're a banker, you know what FinCEN is. It's Financial Crime Enforcement Network. It's a division of the U.S. Treasury. It's what rules banks and how banks do certain things. So they get bank data. So I'll report any crime loss over 5,000. That's what we're required. Anything less than 5,000, unless some circumstances, banks don't have to report it to FinCEN. But we have to report 5,000 and over. I didn't add up how much we reported last year, but 1.8 million SARs filed just on fraud and scams against us and our customers. It's out of control. And then FTC does their own voluntary reporting for people as well. So that's consumers who lose money reported 10 billion. We're not capturing probably a quarter of what's truly lost nationally. So we did a study. Kathy mentioned, and I think we've talked about our KBA relationship. We started our Kentucky Bankers Association. I worked with them, and we try to organize fraud prevention and education for all banks. Kathy and I are competitors. Banks compete for loans and deposits, but the bad guys don't care about our loans and deposits. They want our customers' money, and they want our the same bad guy coming after me is coming after UK Federal Credit Union, coming after Community Trust. We don't compete to see who's the best fraud unit. We all want to be on the same team. So that's the one thing we share. We don't compete for fraud. So we did a study. We asked all Kentucky banks. I think there's 120 member banks of the Kentucky Bankers Association. So we asked all Kentucky banks a few questions about fraud. We've done this 2 years now. And then we expanded it and we asked banks through other banking associations. So 31 other banking associations throughout the nation joined us on this survey. Hundreds surveys were sent out. Here's our responses. The first question, can you all see the red up there? It looks kind of dark. It's $31.5 million. Hundreds of surveys, we got responses. How much did you lose in 2023 to fraud? Not your customers. How much did you lose? That's the answer. 66 banks responded. You know what the other hundreds of banks responded? You're going to be surprised. We don't know. We don't track it. We've never thought about tracking it. The regulators don't require banks to track their fraud. So they're just writing off the check loss here, the card loss there, the different cost centers, and they don't keep up with how much it tallies up at the end of the year. We're changing that. We're going to change the culture of that, because once we get the true picture, I think we'll have more banks joining in with dedicated fraud units to help protect their customers. Fraud exposure is how much do you investigate? Not how much you lose, but how much did you investigate that your customers fell for a fraud or your bank was attacked with a scam or anything. Only 34 banks responded at $78 million. The other hundreds of banks said we've never heard of the concept. They could recover a $2 million wire fraud from a business email compromise. And if they recovered it, it was like it never happened. They just didn't record it. That matters. The third question we asked, and this is hundreds of banks, and these are community banks under 10 billion. Remember that first stat I showed you was over 10 billion, regional, national, international. This is just American community banks under 10 billion, your neighborhood banks. So what's your biggest concern? Is anybody here surprised that a majority of community banks in the country's number one concern is checks? Does anybody here not know that checks are the number one threat to the financial sector today for losses? I'm going to give you some more information on that. AI. Is anybody surprised AI has become a huge concern? We got to adopt it. Bad guys are already using it. If we don't jump on with them. And in cards, that's where banks lose their money, checks and cards. So checks, why do you think checks are a problem? Who's had a check stolen? You're lucky that not everybody in this room is raising their hand. Who knows about our postal problems? Postal security problems. Has anybody ever seen this key before? It's called an arrow key. Does that look like something your great grandparents might have had in the chest? That's the key to the US postal boxes. Today, I could make one of those out of a tin can if I want to. Can you imagine what 3D printers can do? The US Postal's Office of Inspector General did a study and found out that throughout history, the postal regulators, the postal people, never documented how many arrow keys they ordered, how many arrow keys they were missing, who could order them. And anybody in the world could go on to the vendor and order keys. They didn't have to prove they worked for postal. So every criminal in America that wants to steal mail has a key. Not that hard to get. And if you don't know how to get one, you just rob the postal delivery guy. I encourage you to Google mail theft and you'll be amazed at how much you see. And we've actually in Lexington had our postal carriers robbed at gunpoint just for that key last year. So when you hear the check is in the mail, it ain't there long. It's gone. And checks are archaic. Your card in your wallet or your purse has a chip in it that has all these rules and all these protections. And you get text here if it's did you make this purchase, or you get denied here because maybe it wasn't you making the purchase. Checks don't have that. Checks. Who here doesn't even write checks anymore? Yeah, that's half the room at least. And we're not a young crowd in here. If I asked that to a bunch of millennials, y'all wouldn't even know how to write a check. Which is good, because there's plenty of options. Those of you that are writing checks, figure out what Zelle is. Use your cards. I'm going to tell you all the different ways you can save fraud. But here's an interesting stat. Because check usage goes down every year. It's a dying rail of payment. I mean, it drastically goes down every year. But the Federal Reserve tracks non-cash payment activity. Cards, 157 billion transactions. If you ever look at your statement, you feel like maybe you did about 3 billion of them yourself. You dip or swipe or do whatever you do. So we spend 9 trillion on cards. ACH, a whole lot less volume, but that's where a lot of big money moves. Checks, that's a dime venue for people to use, but look how much money we're still spending. That little amount of activity on checks is way more than we spend on cards. Remember I told you the bad guy has the key to the mailbox? That's how you're getting your payments to your vendors, to whoever. They don't have to change the amount on the check. They just have to change the payee. And what's the average amount of those checks if you did math of 27 trillion between 11 big checks? We're just putting money in their pockets and it's with ease. And I'm gonna give you some local stuff here. Has anybody ever heard of Operation Homeless? Kathy, I know, our other bankers, any bankers here not heard of it? Banks know about this. You should. Your teller should know about it. Your president, your board should know about it. This is the #1 threat to retail banking for checks. Bad guys steal the mail. They make a check out to another payee, but are they going to make the check out to themselves? What's in a bank? Cameras. What do you have to show to cash a check at a bank? ID. So they filmed you coming in, they filmed you leaving, and they copied your ID. So bad guys are smart. They're not doing that. Who's the most vulnerable, easy person to convince to go cash your check and go to jail for you? Homeless people. How hard is it to find a homeless person? If I gave you a task, gave you 5 minutes, how long would it take you to come back with a homeless person? If you walked up and said, hey, you want to make $150? Come with me. You could have this room full. That's what they do. They recruit them. They recruit them at shelters during lunch feed time. They recruit them at the bus station at the evening when they do dinner time. And they recruit them at every intersection where they're holding their panhandling signs. All they do is pull up, say, you want to make $100, $150, cash checks for me. They will often lie and say, we need secret shoppers. Banks pay us to go grade their customer service. Some of the homeless believe that. The other ones don't care what they're doing. They know it's crime. But who's going to turn down $150? Give you an example here, a little storyboard. This one happened to us. So if you look at the date on the check, January of 2019, I'm gonna call him Beavis because if you see the picture up there, it kind of looks like Beavis. I don't want to use his real name. So Beavis is panhandling in Hamburg at the Walmart entrance. Bad guys pull up to him in a rental car with the rental car's out of Atlanta. The tag is stolen off of a Lexington car for the same make, same model, so it doesn't come back to the renter. They pull up and they say, Beavis, you want to make $150 secret shopping banks? Beavis says yes. They drive him to Central Bank on Sir Barton Way, which there's a ton of banks on Sir Barton Way. If anybody works out in Hamburg, you know that. They don't just drive him to our bank. They hit almost every bank that day. They had that check stolen from one of our customers. They send Beavis in. Beavis walks out with $4,992. He meets them in another parking lot down the way, and he goes to the next bank, Beavis cashed about $20,000 worth of checks in 20 minutes time. Those bad guys kicked him back out of the car at I-75 in Winchester, and they went back to Atlanta. February 6th, a month later, where's Beavis? Most of you might recognize that's a jail picture. You know what Beavis told us? They asked me to be a secret shopper. I'm no fool. I said I'd rather have crack than $150. So they bought me crack. We smoked some crack. I cashed the checks, and he spent 30 days in jail. We have no idea who those bad guys were. Does Beavis belong in jail? Well, for being high on our streets with crack, yeah, probably. But I didn't recover the money. He don't have money. Can't go after his assets. He doesn't have any. I don't want his tent. Oh, this one people like. I'm gonna show you a little tidbit here. Kathy knows this, and if you other bankers don't know this. In that top right picture, you see the little pink bucket? What's in those buckets? Suckers. What bank does not put suckers on their countertop? Banker? Yep. Do you Chase?
We did use that.
All right, you need to. What's Beavis doing with that bucket? No, he's eating every sucker in it. Sugar, drug addicts crave sugar. There was a study done 20 or 30 years ago about meth addicts and crack addicts and why they had such poor dental hygiene and why was crack or meth eating the enamel off their teeth. Why did they have such bad teeth? So they did a study. Boston University did this study. Guess what? Crack and meth do not hurt your teeth. Being high on crack and meth means you're probably not taking care of your hygiene. But guess what was eating their teeth up? Sugar, Mountain Dew, and sugar candies. I spent most of my career doing drug work, so I knew that. And I thought, let's put these suckers to use for us. Make sure we've had suckers on every countertop. This is the biggest red flag our retail bankers look for. If an adult walks in and they eat more than one sucker, they call us. Can you verify this check for us? And you might want to keep an eye on this guy. Does it work? Does it work? Every one of these people cash counterfeit checks. Guess what's in their mouth? And Kathy knows this one too. We send out banks share through an email network. We share these pictures with each other. It's not uncommon for a guy to walk in my bank with a sucker that he took from Kathy's bank. That's when our tellers are trained. If they walk in with a sucker in their mouth, call us before you do the transaction because he's already stole money from another bank. Put your suckers out. If any of y'all have your, yeah, but the suckers cost us about 2 cents each, but they save us 10 to 20,000 per check. If you're not a bank and you have a business, put some suckers out just so you know who your drug addicts are that come up. Back to my homeless people. I knew you'd like the little side stuff. This is almost as good as the whole bee skill. So your bee pollen created sugar, which helps my business. This is what happens to the homeless guys. Is that where the homeless belong? They belong in the back of a cop car. Do the police care about these homeless guys? Yeah, they care about their welfare, but there's no glory in arresting a homeless guy who got dumped on the side of the road after he cashed a check. We want the bad criminals. So we started, I think it was 2017, we started the Operation Homeless Fraud Prevention Program. It is now picked up nationwide. We train banks all over the country. We have about 31 banks doing this with law enforcement throughout the nation. And this is all it is. It's going to shelters. Myself and my other staff, we visit shelters quarterly, locally, Louisville, Northern Kentucky, some of our surrounding counties. And we go during dinner, we hang these posters and we pass out these cards and we tell them, you don't jump in the rental car with a bad guy. Call us and we'll pay you 3 times more than they'll pay you. And you won't go to jail. And you're anonymous. And guess who the police get to arrest? Because they'll call us. They'll send us pictures of their car. They'll send us pictures of them. We immediately send them to law enforcement and we get the bad guys arrested at the shelter or at the intersection where they're trying to pick up people. And I tell you, it worked so good over the years, they no longer recruit in Central Kentucky. Now, we still get hit on average twice a week. This Atlanta crew's in town. They're blood gang set out of Atlanta. They're here about every 2 weeks. They bring people from Tennessee, West Virginia, Ohio, because they're not just coming to Lexington, they're going all up and down 75 and then 64. They have to go past Kentucky if they didn't pick up anybody in Tennessee, go to Ohio and bring them back to us. We're making them work harder and we're catching them more often. The other way, and this matters to you, and women, this matters to you a little more than anything. That's business checks. It's what the Operation Homeless, they want the big dollar business checks. This is not stealing from the mailbox. This is a group out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, another blood set of gangs who are here every 2 weeks. They're here about opposite of the Operation Homeless guys. And all they do is sit in parking lots of malls, hair salons, gyms, dog parks, city parks, and they watch women who leave their car They go look in the window. If there's a purse, that window's gone and that purse is gone. And then if there's a checkbook and an ID, they're off to the races, writing that checkbook out. And they have women from Fort Lauderdale with them that they'll make look like the ID on the check, and they drive through the window, drive up windows and cash your checks. You don't even know about it. You're filing a police report, and when you come back out of the gym or church or wherever they got you, it's too late. They've already gone through your whole checkbook. It's called felony lane gang for a reason. Who goes to the drive up windows at a bank? If there's 4 lanes and they're all empty, which one are you going to? You're going to the closest one so you can have eye contact and see the person you're transacting. Where's the bad guy go? Bad guy goes to the felony lane, the farthest lane. This is actually the Department of Justice name of this group. They came up with it, felony lane. So you ever pull up to a drive up window at a bank? And you're pulling up and the only car you see is far over there, tell the teller they're cashing a stolen check. In case that teller doesn't know. This is what you get caught with when we get them pulled over. They got disguises to match the woman's ID. If the woman has red hair in the picture and the woman they brought from Florida with them to cash the checks has blonde, they got a red wig. Pretty simple. And it's checks. The most archaic thing in the world. It's not hard to pull the fraud. And real quickly, I know we're on time limit here. If you're business owners, you have to know, do your research, but you have to know about business email compromises. Because we deal with businesses weekly that get their email compromised. And then they'll be transferring money and they'll change out routing numbers and account numbers. The bad guy will, and the bank will send the bad guy money instead of who they intended it to be. You got to get your cyber team or at least some cyber protection. And as a business, and I have to promote Central Bank, we have an insurance company. Call us if you want to buy some insurance. But we sell this kind and every insurance agency does. So get with your insurance agency. You got to have cyber liability insurance. You have to in this day and age. And then look at commercial crime insurance. Somebody does take you for a bunch of money in a scam or a fraud, at least you'll get something back in coverage. So, and it's not that expensive. So I highly encourage you to call your insurance guy or call my insurance guy and at least price it because you will need it. That was fast, but any questions? Because I don't want to keep anybody. Yes, ma'am.
So I in the spring, and when I do business, I always tell my clients, I will never send you information about where it's in line. It doesn't come from me, it's from like all this fraud stuff. But there are other things that business owners can do besides that. If
you are in real estate and loan closers, that's the biggest target of business email compromises. Yeah, y'all are one of the most. Yeah, callback. If you're communicating, if they call you and you know them, hang up and call them back anyway, because they can be spoofing a number and you often don't know the voice of somebody you just only met a few times. Always call them back at the number you know is their number. And especially if it's email communication, don't do anything on that email. Call them back. I bought a car yesterday online from an out-of-state dealership. The guy sends me the routing number, everything from a Chevy dealership. I called the finance guy. I looked up the name of the dealership, not the number he's been communicating with me on, even though it's the same one. I'm still calling the one that they listed. And I said, John, I need to verify the routing number and the account number. He goes, dude, I just sent it to you on an email. I said, nope, you're going to read it to me right now. And he said, why? And I told him, he goes, I should be making people do that, shouldn't I? I said, yes, you should. And it wasn't that big a deal, but I wasn't going to wire $2 until I did that. Yes, ma'am. Because it was a real check stolen out of the mail. The payee line was changed to his name. He had an ID. He walked in. He has an ID. Yeah, most homeless people have IDs because they get benefits. So they got better IDs and probably more accurate IDs. And how many people here got an expired ID in their pocket? Probably don't know it. They got updated stuff. Yes, sir.
Millions of social security numbers stolen recently, like what can we do to protect ourselves? I was one of those.
I was too. If you have no intention of taking out a loan, getting a new credit card, buying a car, doing anything that requires the credit bureaus, then freeze your credit. Then nothing can happen. That's the safest thing to do. Now, if you're retired and older and your house is paid off and you know I'm never taking out a loan, you should do that no matter what. But if you're young and you want to go out and get a new card or you buy a new car every 2 or 3 years, it's a hassle to turn it on, turn it off. Get identity theft protection. There's a lot of good ones out there that will alert you almost real time. I've got Allstate identity protection, which is Allstate insurance. I don't have insurance with them, but they have a standalone product. It's good. It alerted me to the latest breach about the same time the news did, but this stuff comes out pretty quick. Yes, sir. It's called person to person. Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, they're all person to person. The only thing I'll say is Zelle is owned by the 5 big banks, PNC, Chase, Bank of America. They all got together, created a company, and that's who owns and runs it. So it is heavily regulated. It is heavily monitored. Banks that sign up to be a participant, like Central Bank is a participant, we offer Zelle. We have to play by their rules, and they're very strict and they're very fraud controlled. Fraud still occurs, but not at the level of Cash App and Venmo. Law enforcement and banks, when they try to deal with their customers falling for a scam and losing their money on Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal, we get nowhere with those companies. They have no loyalty to the customer. They have no loyalty to the bank. They don't give a damn about law enforcement. So send a subpoena is what they say. Zelle, the banks are required to help. And so I encourage you to use your bank's Zelle option. Yes, sir.
Well, about the liability of the individual versus the plan. Can you comment on who's responsible in the event of fraud in the pocket?
He has the liability. Is the bank responsible or the consumer? And if it's a card, you throw the merchant in the middle of that too. If the government regulators have their way, the banks will be 100% responsible. That's what they're going for. Europe starts it in October of this year. Europe says bank responsible. Customers are too stupid to be any better, and they shouldn't take a loss. That's what the European government said. Australians government's doing the same thing. Our CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is wanting us to do that. We are at risk of banks taking all losses. That's billions of dollars. What are banks going to do? Probably raise your rates to cover the loss. They're already trying to take our interchange away. The interchange for your card transactions is what covers all the fraud costs we take, fraud losses and the fraud prevention. But in most cases, if it's a card or an electronic transfer, if it's within a reasonable timeline, the bank takes the loss. In other cases, checks, banks take the loss. Unless you're so neglect, you didn't look at your statement for a couple of months, then it's your loss because you waited too long. Yes, sir.
I saw that but frankly, I've actually started going back and checks because of bank. For example, my barber doesn't allow a credit card to get because these small buildings they get that's a bank. No business banker, but even my car dealership, I take my car as a service, they charge extra confirm credit card version.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
Now we're still seeing an annual decline in checks. We're seeing much greater growth in the Zelle, person-to-person activity. But you're right, the transaction fees are a burden. Yes, sir.
Just from the Zoomies out there, how does AI play a role in fraud?
Well, right now, banks do use certain forms of AI. We use the machine learning part of it. Most of us have software that monitor transactions. Who's had a card transaction denied? Do you understand? If you follow the path that a card transaction goes through, like you're at Lowe's, you stick it in the machine. You pull it out, it says transaction denied. What that Visa, MasterCard, American Express all have their own global rules, and then banks write their own rules. Some do. But if you were trying to do that transaction at Lowe's in Alaska, it's getting denied if you live in Lexington and you just bought gas at Speedway an hour before. That's machine learning. It says geographically wrong, not a normal transaction. That person's never been to Alaska. That's the machine learning part of it. It's becoming more advanced with real-time stuff. The only problem is businesses and legal people are usually slower to adopt the stuff. The bad guys have already adopted AI. So it's the race is on.
Shane, thank you very much. That was wonderful, Shane, and as a gift from the Rotary Club of Lexington, a lithograph from our very own Bill Strauss. Thank you, everybody. Let's give it up for Shane. Look forward to seeing everybody at the Pollinator Garden. Thank you to the Zoomies who attended. We are adjourned.